Hello there, and welcome to Sweet Shot of Time. I'm your host, Steve Barnes. Today we have a very special episode recapping Time Bandits, episode number 2, titled Mayan. We got a very special guest for this one. Not only are we going to be interviewing her, but she's joining us for the show recap, which is wonderful. But first, I got to bring in my very special guy because I like him. You know him as the rapper Marshland Monster. You know him from his podcast, Sweaty Time Pro Wrestling, and Death to Squids, and a whole bunch of other ones. It's James McCullum, the Marshland Monster. Ahoy there, James.
Chips ahoy, may you always find water and shade.
You say that at the end of the
I say it right now. You gotta find it was like 90 degrees yesterday here in Chicago.
Here too, it was drippy, sweaty, and all kinds of humidities happening. I don't know how it was in New Zealand though. Let's check in with our New Zealand weather person and see what kind of weather they had over there. Our special guest today is from Time Bandits. She was a crew member. She was a stunt double for Penelope, aka Lisa Kudrow, and here she is in her own right. It's Greta Brink. Ahoy there, Greta.
Ahoy there. Well, I mean, the weather in Auckland is definitely much colder. I've got my heater on next to me, and it is actually a beautiful day, but yeah.
I can't imagine. I thought we were all on the same earth and we were all super hot, but I guess different parts of the earth are different temperatures.
Well, you're in the southern hemisphere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like wintertime there, Steve.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a smart guy, James. I never claimed to be. I mean, I just watch Time Bandits in dark. I don't know.
Yeah, we have a hot Christmas and everything. Like, none of the Christmas songs make sense to us. Australia and New Zealand are kind of like, beach Christmas, and you're cooking some kind of fish and other stuff. Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah, where do you spend more time then? New Zealand or Australia? Which one?
Probably more time in New Zealand. I've done a bit of shooting in Australia recently, which has been really cool. And then even weirder, that was in the Northern Territory, and they have 2 seasons. They have the wet and the dry, which is wild. Yeah.
I'll take the dry, I think. Which do you prefer?
Yeah, we were shooting up during the dry, and that's like, I don't know what it is, Fahrenheit, but yeah, like 38 degrees. For us, that's just like cooking. That's
over 100 for us. Yeah, that's a lot. But yeah, we brought you on for to interview you for Time Bandits and talk about your work there. But you've done more than just Time Bandits. So I want to kind of go into some of your other stuff before we get into that, because you just mentioned Australia. I happen to know that you've been part of a Netflix show over there. Is that correct?
Yeah. A new Netflix show called Territory. Sorry, emails coming through. A new Netflix series called Territory, which is it was very cool to shoot, very hot to shoot, I should say. But yeah,
you're not stunts. You're a named character. You're playing Nikki, right?
Yeah, I'm acting in that one, which is it was so much fun, but really cool because there was still a bit of stunt work, and my background is horses, so we're riding horses and herding cattle, and it was a very special show.
Okay, so it sounds like that's right up your alley then. So if they're looking for somebody that can handle a horse, do stunts, and act, like you're a triple threat.
Yeah, I know, that's my version of a triple threat. Yeah, exactly.
Most actors lie about being able to ride a horse to be like, I got to get this. I'll just learn in the meantime. But you're like, no, I actually know.
I got video.
Yeah, it's funny. It's probably, even when I started doing stunts, it was the thing that I was most qualified to do. Like all the other, whether it was martial arts or, I mean, by no means am I very proficient at that, but I learned enough to get by with fight scenes. But yeah, that was the one thing that I was like, no, I've got 25 years of experience of this. I'm really this I'm solid in.
I've seen you handle some nunchucks now, so I know that you can do some nunchuck and karate stuff.
We all started using nunchucks on Time Bandits. Thomas Kiwi, he was our fight choreographer. He had a pair of nunchucks, and we'd all sort of start playing with them. And we were all so bad at the beginning, like we couldn't do anything. And then slowly, there was a martial arts store close to us, and we all slowly started buying them and playing with them before rehearsals. And then, yeah, it was so much fun. Brandon got really, really good at them. And he got a pair of wooden ones because we were all playing with foam ones at the beginning because they don't hurt when you
Oh,
smack yourself.
sure.
But then Brandon got a proper pair of wooden ones, and they were quite scary as we were very tentative as we started doing stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, you started acting. I see that you graduated from the actors program in 2019, but then you pretty much got into stunts. I wanted to know, like, horses, it sounds like a big one, but what was the first project that you did that involved stunts?
Yeah. I did the actors program in 2019, and that was like a 1 year intensive acting school, and that was amazing. And then graduated in 2020, and so I was sort of all ready to step out into the acting world, and then everything
Sure.
shut down, and New Zealand especially
Oh,
hard shut down. But then towards the end of 2020, we kind of opened up again, and again Thomas Kiwi, he was the fight choreographer on Time Bandits. He My first ever film job was Mulan, the Disney movie, and I was working in the horse department, and that was the first time I'd ever been on set. Was this massive Disney set, and
wow.
my mind was blown. We were doing battle scenes, and it was crazy, and I I couldn't believe it, but I was like, this is where I need to be. And I came up to Thomas because he was stunt performing, and I said, can you train me? And that was back in 2018, and he trained me on and off. And then at the end of 2020, they couldn't get anyone into New Zealand to be stunt doubles because we had such strict restrictions. And he said, I got a text message that literally said, do you want to get your head smashed through a door and get thrown over a table? And I was like,
Yes.
I'd love
Who
that.
would say no to that?
I know, I was just very unemployed. So I thought, fantastic, I'd love to do this. And so that was Cowboy Bebop, which was a Netflix series. And that was my first job. And then it kind of just rolled on from there.
I think we've seen everything that you've been in,
Oh, really?
actually, because you've been in a bunch of really great stuff like Lord of the Rings, Rings of
Yeah.
Power, the Cowboy Bebop, which I had to watch that because my son was so into that.
Oh,
The
really?
Disney Mulan. I mean, absolutely. Did you see Mulan as well, James? Or is that too recent?
I did not.
Okay. I still have young children or semi young children. She's an adult now, but she still likes Disney stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right up our alley.
Oh,
And you're a musician too. That's what I was really digging. I started checking out some of your music. I know you have a single coming up pretty soon. So when are we expecting a single from you?
I've got one coming, like sort of maybe a month or so away, and then one which was actually funny because I sort of started getting into music on Time Bandits after work. I
Wow.
mean, I'm definitely a creative person, and stunts is creative in ways, but also in many ways not as well. As sort of there's a balance. But a friend who actually plays Demon Dog on the show, Shane Rungy, who's an
Mhm.
actor and stunt performer and director. And I mean, if you look up him on Google, it just is endless. He's incredible. And we started sort of jamming after work. He'd bring his guitar and I'd sing. And then I
Cool.
started writing some stuff, and he really kindly he bought me my first guitar and a notebook and was like, I think you're writing songs, and was sort of this beautiful permission slip. And then the first song
Yeah.
that I wrote was it was a song called Road to Hell. And then when I went and did Territory, I produced the song with a friend, and then I went on, did the show in Australia, and people started hearing that, and it was really similar to the tone of the show, and so now they're using that in the show. So it was a really
Whoa.
cool,
Nice.
way that happened. But there's one coming out before that.
Okay, I want to ask you a couple stunt questions before we get into the recap thing, and I'm going to give James a chance to ask you some questions if he has some too. Um, so is there a colloquial term for like a stunt person now, or do you have something that you prefer, like stunt woman, or is it just stunt person?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're talking about everyone, you'd say stunt performer, stunt men, stunt
Performer.
women. Um, yeah, I
Like when you're talking to your friends, what do you call yourself?
a jack of all trades.
Master of none.
Yeah. If I'm talking to my friends, I say I do a bit of stunts, I do a bit of this, I do a bit of that. But I think also for me, stunt woman, I've put that in the category of two women that I worked with, Dana Grant and Zoe Bell. And like, I don't know, I've got to do really cool things, and I have been a stunt woman. But I think I hold that at such a high level that I'm like, I am not the same as these women. I think what they've done is incredible. And so that's more for me personally. But yes, I am a stunt woman, but maybe that's more of the imposter syndrome. In New Zealand, we're very similar, I'd probably say, to the Midwest. We've got a lot of tall poppy syndrome. We can't take a compliment. We can't say anything positive about ourselves, really, without like some way cutting it down a bit.
Uh-huh.
Y'all both wear green shirts. Y'all both have shoulder length red hair.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
I mean, everyone in New Zealand looks like, we all wear green and have red hair. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the standard.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I was going with that, but I just didn't know if it was appropriate to call somebody a stunt woman, or if it was, some women like to be called the mailman. It just depends on the person. I didn't know if there was an industry standard that that goes by. Like, I guess stunt performer sounds good.
Yeah, not that I know of in New Zealand. I mean, one thing, it was definitely for a very long time, and sort of, I guess, still like a very male-dominated industry.
Sure.
But that was also like, I mean, if you think of a lot of action films for a long period of time, it's all guys fighting, so you're going to get guys to double them, and it's, but it's as you have more roles for women, and I'm talking about action because that's generally where you're going to get a stunt performer. But so that's where more and more women are getting to come into it. But I also think, like, I know Dana has doubled guys many times with riding. Apparently, like, a lot of the riders in the first Lord of the Rings and the original films were all women dressed as guys for the big battle scenes, because there were just more women riders around there. And yeah.
I was going to ask about that too. If that's ever the case, like if you've ever stunted for a man or vice versa, if like a male stunter has done it for a female performer. I guess it's just depends on the role.
Yeah, I think it depends on the role. The first time I was ever performing was for a non-binary person, and they were given the option as to who they would like as a double, and they wanted a female, and so that's how I got my first job. So yeah, I think it depends, and sometimes, sometimes generally the actor will get a say, or sometimes the actor will get a say. And but then it's also a lot to do with matching body, like height, your measurement, all of that kind of stuff, because that's what it's going to come down to. When you see us going past in a shot doing whatever we're doing, you want to suspend your belief and go, yeah, no, that's still the actor that I know and love.
I'm going to put a bookmark there because I'm going to say something about that in a few minutes. James, did you have any questions before we get into our recap?
Yeah, I hope this isn't too hyper specific, but I hope you would. I think you'll understand this. As a stunt performer in New Zealand, are you upset that Power Rangers ended?
I was personally never on the show, but I know a lot of people who were on it, and they were incredible performers. Like, their tricking and their martial arts level was just incredibly high. And I think they're maybe a bit gutted. But then it has been such a long time, so maybe it is a bit of an end of an era thing. Like, it's a bit of a tricky, that's a very diplomatic answer.
Sure is.
They're like, no, Hasbro, bring it back. I want to be on a show.
No.
Brandon didn't satisfy. I mean, okay, I'm going to shout out Brandon, but like in a negative way, I guess. Brandon, you didn't satisfy my answer when I asked you about stunt horses. So I'm going to ask Greta. I'm really fascinated with the stunt horses, how you can't like talk to a horse like you would a person or even a dog. So as a horse rider and a horse stunt person, like, how do you guide the horse to do things like fall down or do something that's not like in their natural character?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was blown away by the training, because I've grown up with many different disciplines of riding, so I felt like I was quite experienced. But then when it was on when I did Rings of Power was when I was first really aware of it. And a lot of having a horse on set is that you want them to be a bit desensitized. So horses are a flight animal. So if there is something that is out of the ordinary, or if there's a big sound or something, or also people in costumes, cameras, all that kind of stuff, like that's not normal. And so they want to run, they want to spook. And so a lot of the training is getting them really, really comfortable with that environment and just making that normal. And so every day when we were schooling the horses, is what we would call it, for Rings of Power, and there was a few of those horses that had never been on a set before. So it was quite cool to get to see that kind of journey of them not wanting or not liking what they were seeing to becoming really comfortable with it. But yeah, there's certain things like when horses are falling, you'll break it down really simply. Now I think there is a rule that you can't have horses falling at pace. So basically, if they're moving probably faster than a walk, you can't have them go down. Because back in the day, I mean, there was no health and safety, and there was I think definitely a lack of care, or just about the animal's safety. And so a lot of animals got injured for the shot, which is not right. Like there's a way we can do this without anyone having to be especially an animal who hasn't actually signed up for this. But it was amazing. For example, on Rings, I remember they were training this one horse, a whole lot of orcs jump on it and then it comes down. And so there's just certain cues a little bit. Some of those things, like those tricks, are a bit like how you train a dog. You like break it right down, and sometimes you do have treats for them. Like you do have that sort of positive, like whether it's mints, like they love mints or carrots or whatever, something like that. And then other times there's sort of tension and release. So you might be putting tension. And then the same as like walking a dog on a lead, there's tension. Like I want you to stop. And then as soon as they have, you release it. And so you'll sort of work through that, same with the horse, until they become really, really comfortable. You put more things that could distract them until we can be on set on the day, shooting that shot. And they're going to be fine with all of the chaos that, that set is.
So who instigates the horse to do these things? You as the rider, or is there another trainer on the ground that's kind of guiding the horse along?
I think it'll depend on the stunt. It'll depend on how the horse master, and often the horse master, it's their horses. So I was on a show where the horse had to rear, and I had a person on behind me on the horse as well. And the horse master, he did it from the ground. So he had a whip, but he's not using it to touch the horse in any way. It's literally like he wiggles it along the ground. So it's kind of like a hand signal, but it's just with a longer piece. So the whip never touches the horse. And he would wiggle along the ground, and that kind of like breaks up the horse's sort of, brain from just going, going on as normal. And sort of like, oh, we're going to do something, get ready. And he'd lift the whip up and the horse would rear up. And so I didn't do anything on the back. But then other times it might be up to me. I might be signaling the horse. So it'll depend on the show, depend on the, sometimes the location. Like it's all, sort of case dependent.
Yeah, I know that you yourself have to do a lot of stunts. But yeah, I'm looking at like these horses doing their thing. I'm like, they depend on the people so much. And yeah, we think about them more. I think they used to just think of horse as like a background thing or like a prop. And now they're, I think people have more a gentle understanding of like animals now than they ever did before.
Yeah.
Kind of you were saying how things used to be a little crazier back in the day with stunts. Do you think that's something that you could have done like back in the 60s or 70s when they were doing those insane stunts with like no training wheels? Do you think you could have hung in that environment?
Oh, like the stunts? God, no. Like I don't, I genuinely do not think I could have been a stunt performer before now. I remember on Bandits, I would sit after work with Zoe and Clint Alvey, who was our assistant stunt coordinator. And I would just listen to stories of the Xena Warrior Princess days, and when she was on Kill Bill, and like all of, these sort of amazing stories, but I was also going, how are you still alive?
Like, it's time for my story now. People can listen to my story 20 years from now.
Yeah, honestly though, like, I mean, the things that she, especially, I mean, Zoe especially, and often having like, I think of something like Xena where you don't have a lot of costumes. So normally as a stunt performer, you're looking at your costume going, where can I put my pads? Where can I get elbow pads, knee pads, hip pads, back pads if I
Hmm.
need it? Like, yeah. And for example, on Time Bandits, that was the best costume ever. I could hide whatever I needed under there. It was great. It was so good. But other shows, and again, Zoe, like, there's nowhere to hide these things. So it was just having to full send yourself into whatever the danger was. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, your costume was awesome. That red pirate kind of coat that
So
they made you
cool.
wear, like Adamant, is what it reminded me of. It was like
Oh,
Adam and the
really?
Ant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's such a, yeah, like a ringmaster, but also sort of, I don't, English lieutenanty kind of. Oh, I guess that's where that, or the ringmaster sort of originated from. But yeah,
That's
it was so
exactly it.
cool.
Ring mask. Did you catch that, James? That she was wearing like a ring? I did not until just now. That makes total sense.
No.
Yeah, talking to you guys from Time Bandits, it's helped me learn a lot more. Like, I didn't know what diddle egg meant, but now I know that means a little bit big just from talking to him. I
Oh my God,
now know
I
that's a
didn't know
ringmaster
that.
jacket. Oh yeah, see? I was gonna lead into saying that, like, y'all have been like the best cast and crew. This is the third show that I've done this with where I've been recapping the show as it's airing. And I've, talked to some other actors before, but never have I had like such an influx of like friendly people that have agreed um, e- to be on the show or to not be on the show, but just to be on a group text with me and talk about the show like off mic. I mean, it's been great. Everybody that I've encountered is so friendly. So I just want to tell you that I love your gang.
Oh, it's such a special gang, honestly. Like the whole cast and crew, but then especially the stunt department. I mean, those are the people I spend the most time with, and the people that I put my life in their hands, like our riggers, the guys that are keeping us up in the air when we're in harnesses.
Yeah.
Daily, I am entrusting them with my life, but very confidently. And the same with the doubles, the other stunt doubles. We just became siblings. Like it was a really, I don't know if I'll ever get that again. And I really, really treasure that time. It was a really special time with those people.
Keep in touch with them then. I mean, yeah, if it never
Yeah.
happens again, then keep this
Yeah,
and keep it going. I mean, even if nothing, I mean, I'm hoping that you guys get to do more seasons and we get to do this much more. But if not, I mean, yeah, keep those relations. These are good ones because these are some really nice people you're surrounding yourself with.
definitely.
Yeah. Do you guys want to get into the recap or do we have anything else we wanted to go over?
No, I think I'm good to get into it.
I am too. I mean, we could just do this part for much longer. I'm cutting myself short here because we've got to get into our episode recap for the kids. They want to hear about this episode and some special insight from you. So we're going to get into it now.
Amazing.
Yeah, this episode is called Mayan. It's episode 2, and we're going to start us out here. We start out the last episode. They had just come into the portal from Troy, and so the first shot we see is going to be a shot from them getting dumped into the snow. Snow. um, so the first thing I'm going to ask is to you, Greta. You guys, when y'all did the snow scene, did y'all actually fall from the sky there into the snow like we saw, or was that a trick of photography?
No, we are all falling. So I remember rehearsing this. We rehearsed this on one of like the first days of my time on the show. And also went before I started the show, I did not know what this was. I had never seen the original film,
Oh,
which I
right.
shortly watched afterwards, and so I could understand what was going on. But I hadn't seen any scripts and I had no idea. So I literally landed off a plane and came in and started rehearsing. And
Cool.
just rehearsed us like going down a slide, and then someone said, now we're going to go to this stage and we're going to shoot when you come out of the snow. And I was going, what are we doing? Is the show? And they're like, you're time traveling. And I was like, okay. But yeah, we're all harnessed up and we shot it one by one, lying in
Okay.
this sort of fake snow, covered in fake snow. And we all had different ways of getting thrown up into the air and falling down. So you're just catching the last part of our descent kind of stuff into the snow.
Okay, all right. That's awesome. So yeah, he comes. They get dumped out in the snow. Turns out they're in Bingley, 50,000 BC. This is the future site of Kevin's house. Wrong time, thanks to Widget. It happens sometimes where people get the wrong time, and I want to apologize to Greta because yesterday we agreed to meet on August 5th at a particular time, but August 5th here in America is different than it is in New Zealand. So, any of y'all who are trying to make any kind of international calls or maybe do a podcast with someone in Australia, check the date. Don't just check the time, check the date. So, I pulled a real Widget there and I apologize. But yeah, we're in the snow. They're gonna send Kevin off with his other Neanderthal family. Kevin talks his way into going with them, and they treat him like a little wolf puppy. That's like my favorite thing about them, James, is they treat Kevin as if he's a little dog. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I explained to Nicole, it feels like everyone besides Kevin is in a stoner comedy, and he is just like a real person. He's like, what? Why is everyone being like this?
Yeah, they're joyfully naive about everything.
Uh-huh.
They shouldn't be because they were created by the creator, so it seems like they should have a bunch of knowledge, but they do not. They only know about what they know about.
I love the Neanderthals. I love the way they're embodied, and everything they did with them, I think, is really, really great. But I love. I think Alto has a line saying something. He said that they're Neanderthals, and he said that's very rude to say about your mum. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love, like what you were saying before. I love how Kevin is the only kind of sane one there, which and for a child must be so bizarre that you're suddenly
Mhm.
the one. You're like, why am I the only one who can see this? Yeah.
Yeah, something I wrote too here that about later on is I like the way that the Time Bandits seem like they're completely clueless to like one another, like how they're feeling. Like Judy is always getting emotions wrong, and Penelope just gets everything wrong. But they're all like really supportive of each other at the same time, and they all like really encourage each other. So it's kind of like I kind of saw it as like this kind of like what did I write down here? Respectful anarchy is how I see the
Oh
Time
yeah.
Bandits.
That's a great way to describe it. It's like there's this one sort of thread that is keeping them all together, but the way they stumble around, and you're amazed as to how they make it out of anything. It's like luck is sort of constantly on their side.
And just like the movie too, like the bandits could, I mean, these could be some pretty bad dudes and they could have really bad attitudes, but it seems like deep down they all kind of have a heart. And that's why we love them. That's why we love the Time Bandits.
There's a lot of obviously it's a comedy and it's fun and they say the most hilarious stuff, but also like the further you go, the more you see the sort of humanity in them, and the bits that they're all sort of struggling with a little bit, and how it's manifesting how they react to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in the beginning of the episode, they're still not really on Kevin's side. At the end, they sort of switch. But Steve, when you said that Kevin was playing on their like sensitive sides when like to go along with them further to like get out of the ice age, it wasn't their sensitive sides. He was just turning blue, and they're like, "All right, I guess like this kid shouldn't be here."
They're about as nice as his parents are at this point. I guess you're right. I don't know, but they did allow him to come along. They keep having that Penelope keeps finding that soft spot in her heart, but he's with them, and we can see that Fiona is close by and keeping an eye on them. Fiona, of course, played by Rachel House. Did you ever get to do any stuff with the character of Fiona while she was in like full gear, Greta?
Yeah, I mean, Rachel would be getting ready in the hair and makeup truck next to me, and when it was all prosthetics, it was terrifying still, and then they added more on top. Yeah, there's a bit with Fiona and Penelope, and Rachel was
Oh,
amazing. Yeah,
okay. I'm
really,
a
really
big
amazing.
I'm a big fan of Rachel House. So I was a little bummed that I'm not seeing like her, but at the same time, I mean, I know it's her in there, and I can't wait to see what happens here.
Yeah.
And if it's with Penelope, then maybe the stunt double might need to step in for a few of those things too, eh?
Hey.
Never know. We've only seen up to episode 2 so far, so we just don't know. They smash out of that 50,000 BC and they arrive in Mexico, the classical Mayan period, which is between 250 and 950 AD. Kevin warns them that they'll probably be brutally sacrificed. Um, but they encounter the surprisingly pleasant Mayans and they're welcomed to a feast. Um, First thing I wanted to say about this is a few days ago, I admit I was mad at Time Bandits because they didn't give Jose Palma his character a name. We never hear his name. And he's like the big guest star of this show, the main Mayan guard who does most of the
Yeah.
dialogue with the bandits. And his only name in the credits was Mayan Guard number 1. And I was mad at them. I was like, come on. I looked at IMDb today, though, and they've updated IMDb, and he actually has a name. His name is Balam Kupal, and of course, he's played by Jose Palma. And
Yeah.
they never see his name in the show, though.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, I remember seeing that name on the call sheet. Yeah. The
Well, yeah, they didn't give it to us until recently, and I was going to be mad, but I'm not mad. I'm very happy with Time Bandits again now.
They're in your good books.
Keep getting mad.
But he was great. He pretty much stole this episode for me. And I didn't say before, I really liked episode 1 and I really love episode 2. This episode was I mean it was a step up from even episode 1. I didn't ask you what your impression of the episode was, James. So here's the time to do it.
I think this one, I don't have a lot of notes for it because it was just like very joke heavy. And
Yeah.
like, you can, besides writing down quotes, it's not like I can like try to dissect a joke. It's just a well written, funny thing that was said. So
Right.
I think the first episode sets everything up, and then it's like, oh, this is the show now, and I'm excited for it. But man, at the end, like the world building and all of the like prosthetics of the demons in hell, that's awesome. That,
Yeah.
like, it's great. I'm loving it. And then once we see do they call it heaven?
Yeah, that's a question for you, Greta.
Yeah,
Do they have a name for that?
I can't remember. I don't know if it's just like the Supreme Being's compound. Like,
Okay.
The
I don't know
compound.
if heaven was ever used because it's not. It's we don't really use heaven and hell. We've got like the Supreme Being and your wrongness, kind of. What is it? Something evil. Yeah.
Mhm.
You're right. It is wrongness, is what it says on IMDb as Jermaine Clement's name.
Yeah.
Wrongness.
But it was amazing, James, what you were saying as well, like well written jokes. So much of, like, a lot of the script is hilarious, but so much of what they were doing was improv. Like, I remember Taika being behind the monitor, laughing and trying to muffle it so he wouldn't, ruin the take with his laughter. But, like,
Mhm.
the whole crew would be behind, like, shoulders shaking. And yeah.
I mean, that's something James is right. I don't want to rehash every joke as well because there's so many of them, but it's so joke dense. And it's like, I've watched this episode 4 times and I still don't know if I've caught in every joke because they just come by so fast.
Yeah.
So kids need to rewatch it. If you saw it once already, you got to rewatch it again to get more jokes. Some important stuff happens. There's some important dialogue I need to point out. The power of Kevin's room. They call it the time egress. That's something we forgot to talk about last episode, James, is we were calling it something else. But Kevin's room is called a time egress. And Widget mentioned that the map pulsed when it was in that time egress, as if it was in the presence of real knowledge. So I think that's a big hint that maybe Kevin might have something to do with that.
He's the egress that inside us all along.
That's he's been with us the whole time. We also meet, let's see, Lady Sack Cook, I think is her name. She is great as well. This is the first thing I think that she's been in because she's credited as a production assistant, and then this is the only film credit that she has. Can you confirm that, Greta? Was this one of her first roles, or do you even know?
I have no idea. I wouldn't have thought because she's such a
Me neither.
natural. She was
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I
I
would
thought.
not have thought that, but then she must be very talented. So
Yeah, I mean, her delivery was so on point and so subtle too, because you couldn't quite tell if she was gonna sacrifice them or if she was just a nice lady. You just
yeah,
didn't know. Oh, another interesting point too, I should say about the actor who plays her is their name is Genesis Mancharin Abuj, a non-binary actor. And it's interesting too because a lot of their scenes were with Judy, who's also a non-binary actor, and they were both kind of getting hints off each other, trying to like leadership roles.
yeah,
Lady Suck tells her that if you want to be a leader, you have to keep making decisions and keep doing things because stagnation is the death of leadership. I don't know if I agree with that or not. Did you guys have any thoughts about that?
I think that's correct. Not like all my great managers, that's what they did. They didn't wait around for things to be done. And always women. They're like, no, yeah, I'm not gonna wait for the like dudes above me to say what I should be doing because they're always going to be wrong. I'm not waiting around. And then I was thinking, you want to know what? I need to start doing that at the comic book store. I need to just say, nope, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to wait around for other people.
Which leads me to another question we should have asked you 30 minutes ago, Greta. Do you have like a profession that you want to share with us that you do outside of acting and music? Or is that your main thing is stunts and acting?
that's kind of the main. Yeah, that's the main
Yes, I
gig.
love
Yeah,
it.
Heck yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I'm not I'm still struggling, guys. Go to patreon.com/MLM pod, where for $5 a month, you get exclusive content every single Friday and help. This is actually the thing I need to start saying, Steve,
Okay.
is hey guys, my cat has intense separation anxiety. The more I have to leave is actually the more damage being done to him. So head over to patreon.com/MLM pod.
It's animal cruelty to not head over.
Uh-huh.
That's right. And
He
we love your cats. So we want your cats to always be happy as well,
Yeah,
James.
he's been unruly and I feel so bad for him. I think I'm gonna just like get a speaker with like just an MP3 player on it and just play Engage with Nicolas Cage for 8 hours when I'm gone. So then he'll be like, oh yeah, both Nicole and James are still in the apartment.
And Greta, yes, that's James and his partner Nicole's podcast. They talk to each other on that podcast. So the cat would be very happy. Cats would be very happy with that one. I've never
Oh,
thought of
Butter
that
doesn't
before.
care. Butter does not care.
Oh,
Butter I think's just broken. She doesn't know what's going on. Like I feel bad. I'm like, should we get her tested for something? What's wrong with you? Why are you so scared of everything?
I don't know, but I got to tie in now back to Time Bandits. I'm going to tie us back in. At the intro of the show, the musical intro that lasts about 15 seconds or so, I noticed for the first time that they're showing different things during the intro. It's going to change every episode. Um, depending on where we're at. So this time we saw a kitty cat. I don't know why. We saw corn and we saw the little toad statue. So I think every episode they're going to be switching that up. The guy who does the music for this show is a little man named Mark Mothersbaugh, James. You believe that?
Tell me who that is. Is this Gibby Haynes's friend?
He's been on Who Charted like 4 times.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy from Devo, and he does the I wrote down all of his credits here. We know all of his stuff. He's done the stuff for
Rugrats.
Taika's Thor Ragnarok, all the Wes Anderson films, Our Flag Means Death,
Wow.
Sliders, Rocket Power, Rugrats, What We Do in the Shadows. He's the man. Mark
And I think
Mothersbaugh.
Spyro the Dragon?
Probably. Probably. I mean, his credits are like 300 lines long, so
It might actually
probably.
be another person from Devo who did Spyro the Dragon.
But yeah, that's something I had to bring up because that intro is different every time, and it's nice and short, and it's always different. So that's good. Like the House of the Dragon intro is always different too, but it's also 2.5 minutes long. So it's like I like this little short, quick one. It's nice. I had another note here. Yeah, The kids table, like that was another nice little side joke that they made a couple times, that Kevin's sitting over there at the kids table. They make a lot of references this episode to Kevin being a kid, at least 4 of them that I caught. So I think they're trying to emphasize that fact to us a lot. That's something I've never ever in my life had to deal with, because my family, we've never had a kids table. We've always sat with the adults, and the kids were always part of the conversation and stuff. Did you guys ever have to do the kids table thing? I'll start with you, Greta.
I I have 4 half siblings, but they're all 30 years older than me. So I've kind of lived the life of an only child. Um,
Ah,
and I think then you kind of get brought along to everything and you are at the table with everyone else. So yes
yeah,
and no. Less so kids table stuff for me.
yeah. How about you, James?
Of course, yeah. I think once all my cousins and I we're all around the same age. Also, my siblings, like within like a 4 year like plus and minus.
Sure.
So once we were all like teenagers, it's like, well, we don't need a kids and an adult table. But then they're like, oh well, we don't have a table this big, so we kind of do need to separate it. But hey, if you want to sit at whichever one, go for it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I
So
guess
if it's like,
my family never had like one central table. We're always just kind of spread around wherever we
okay,
were. So there was never a kids section over here. Like the grandparents always wanted to eat with the kids. It's just how it went.
yeah, we would just choose like our favorite aunt and uncle and just sit with them.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that's what's happening in our family now. Everybody sits with my sister Vicky because she's the cool one of the family. Not me. Like I should be. I should be the cool one. Bitleg loves to eat. He's eaten a lot in this scene. Did you guys have spit buckets at the table over there, Greta, or were they actually eating everything?
I don't remember. There were no stunts on there, so we were probably off rehearsing something. So, but I can't imagine they must have had spit buckets because there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, especially Bitterleg is just throwing stuff down. So,
Well, I didn't know if that was part of like Rune's thing. Like, I love to eat, so I'm going to eat all I can while I'm on set. I didn't know because he seems like that seems like the kind of move he would do, is just eat it all down. But
yeah,
maybe not. I don't know. I should have asked him.
that's a good point. It does seem like something he might do.
Yeah, I liked how someone said, "Oh yeah, we have more food," and he said, "More food? That's my favorite food."
The main thing, though, I took away from here is that um, we're seeing Kevin's situation through Penelope's eyes. And I didn't see anything necessarily like wrong with Kevin's parents. I know they're not supposed to be great, but I was like, his parents don't seem horrible. But then, like, through the lens of the Time Bandits and the way that I kind of take my cues from them. And I see that Penelope's concerned and the Time Bandits are concerned for Kevin. So this is like the first clue we get of that, is that, they're feeling sorry for Kevin in a situation.
Hey, Steve, I don't think you think there's not anything wrong with his parents because you are a Gen Xer. So you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's how my parents were. It's like, no, the parents shouldn't be like that.
It is true. That's my lens. And yeah, I'm like, these parents are way better than my parents were growing
Oh,
up. They
wow,
seem pretty
sirs,
nice.
that's terrible.
Well, you're Penelope now. You're feeling sorry for me, and maybe you'll let me come along with you.
I guess my mom had bouts of like very bad parent, but generally I would say my mom was fine. Like she was like very supportive, but then because of like things going on in her own head and life, like she would
Yeah.
lash out. So yeah, I don't think, but she would never like call me stupid and be like, "Hey, the things you're into are wrong."
I mean, I was a little metalhead, so I got told that quite a bit. Like, why? What is with this
Oh,
band? Is this band a bunch of Satan worshipers? No, mom, it's just metal. Duh.
man, I got lucky in that regard. I think because my brother and sister were so worse than what I was doing. So like the satanic rap music that I was listening to, they were like, "Yeah, he's not doing drugs. That's good." We don't constantly think like, oh, will he overdose and die? No, yeah, like he's just in his room. Maybe we should be focused on like why he's just always in his room, just playing the same video game over. We know he beat it yesterday and the day before. Why does he keep playing this? They should have been focused on that, but it was in life or death. Unlike with my brother and sister.
Yeah, Penelope would have recognized that, and she would have dragged you along. I'm sure she would have.
Oh, that would have been so cool. Except I would just want to go in the future. The smells of the past I don't want them.
Well, let's see. They go into the treasure room there, and they're grift horsers, James. They're looking for resale value. They want to see the most valuable thing in the city. Penelope almost steals that little toad thing, and Kevin talks her out of it. We see later on though that there's like a little switcheroo that happens in her bag, and it makes me wonder if I mean Greta might already have the answer to this, but I'm almost thinking that she did steal that toad and she had it in her bag, and then Kevin, unbeknownst to her, switched it out for an avocado. I mean, I have no proof of that, but I think that would kind of be a neat little turn of events if that actually happened.
I don't think so, because he looked so excited that she didn't steal.
Yeah, but maybe he was excited that he got away with the switcheroo.
No, this is how you're excited that you got away with a switcheroo.
I didn't see Kevin do that. So
yeah. I don't think there was a switcheroo.
All righty. Greta, do you have any words about that, or do you have any insight?
I don't know. I mean, it's like very on brand for Penelope to still steal it, but there is sort of like this thawing of the ice that's sort of around her when it comes to Kevin. Like, you know, even in the way that you see the heart of all the bandits as they're sort of listening, and especially when she's listening to how his parents, you know, the things that they say about him or whatever, and that this is the first time he's getting any recognition in his life. I think that's really, really interesting. And as it progresses in the episode, even like the looks that Lisa as Penelope gives him is really, they're so small, but they mean so much that you can see her going like, that's not right. Like, I'm not okay with that because I appreciate this little person.
Yeah, he's helping us out. He's helping us be bandits.
So she still gives little looks like you're still a weirdo.
Yeah,
but you shouldn't. That doesn't mean you should be treated lesser then.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all weirdos. It's on brand to be a time bandit, to be kind of weird, I think.
exactly. That's the prerequisite of the group.
But they decide to make a quick run for it. And this is the point that it was right around the 20-minute mark. You can see like while the bandits are like exchanging dialogue, you see it's the bandits as they're running exchanging dialogue. But then like you see like this quick sideways shot, and if you pause it at just the right moments, you see that Penelope looks an awful lot like Greta Van den Brink, and that Biddlehead looks an awful lot like Brandon Herbert. I couldn't help but notice that. It was great. I saw you in Time Bandits.
There was I remember when we were shooting that, and more of the stuff when we were running from behind, and we were kind of swapping in and out with the cast, and sometimes it was some of us in the cast, and sometimes it was just us, and sometimes it was just the cast, and all the stunties we'd just run through. And Tyka said to Zoe, was that the cast or our stunt performers? And she said, it's whoever you want them to be. And yeah, it was really great. Like, that was what was so cool about doubling these characters, is that they are so sort of iconic, each of them, in the way that you sort of embody them as the stunt performer, so that everything that you do holds that little bit of chaos that they each hold in their own way.
Now, I've got a few interesting predictions to make, and I've seen through episode 4, so I only know up to that point. So I'm only speculating. But it seems to me that we have the Time Bandits, and then we have this other group of stunt performers, and they have all their costumes are right there. They look just like the Time Bandits. I think it would be really neat if they found like an alternate time version of themselves and reenacted with themselves. The opportunity's right there. And I haven't seen that through episode 4, but I hope to see it sometime. That'd be really neat.
they catch up to themselves, or they almost catch up to themselves in this episode. They just sort of miss themselves in this episode.
Right. I was wondering if they would see themselves, and that's what
Yeah,
made my brain start thinking like, they could do something like that.
I remember that once our heads of our department had to go, and they had like a 2-hour meeting about time travel, like just the logistics of time travel. I
I
remember
would love to be in that meeting.
I am in the right industry. This is exactly where I want to be. And because I think they had some changes to the script, and they were figuring out, like, hang on, but if they do this, and like referencing all of the time travel movies that had happened before. And I know they would have done so much of this beforehand, but then there was a new change, and they were all trying to figure out what would happen in time if this happened. And it was great.
I would love to be part of that, Brandon. That is awesome. Brandon gets to do a stunt here. He gets to do the little swinging thing over the clip, but he's the only one that gets to swing on the vine. Did anybody else get a chance to do that besides him?
No, but we're all up, like, we are up at about 10 meters high, 11 meters high. I don't know what that is in feet, but
Neither do
we're
we.
100.
$100.
We're all up there. We're all up there in harnesses and stuff with him. It was quite funny just watching Brandon swing, and as well, and as bitterly, because he is so different from that character. Obviously, you spoke to Brandon. He's so funny, but then when he hops into character, it's so different. But yeah, it was I had a lot of fun just watching Brandon swing on that vine.
Did you guys all get to do the synchronized jump together while y'all were holding hands like they did on the show?
Oh yeah, that's all the stunties. That's all of us jumping, and we're free falling. Like we're in harnesses, but when you jump, you are falling through the air and getting stopped just before you hit the ground. So for however long you are falling, like you have your stomach going right out, left behind, and falling.
Did y'all like jump into the box? Is that the cardboard box jump, or did y'all just jump onto like a big mat?
No, so there's a mat at the bottom, and each of us have got someone on our line, and so we all jump down together and land. But yeah, we did it. We rehearsed that so many times. You'd go up on a scissor lift, and to the very top of the studio, and then the what you can see of the rock is real, but then the rest is all CGI, and we jump off that. And yeah, it was very cool. Like a lot of those, there were so many moments on the show, but that was definitely a day where you're going like, I can't believe this is my job. I can't believe I'm getting paid to jump off this with all my friends. And Leo was doubling Kal-El as Kevin. It was one of his sort of first big stunts with us. He'd done the one where we come out into Mexico, and we come out of the tree, and we all sort of jump out and roll off each other. But this was his first proper one, and I remember standing next to him, and I said, you can squeeze my hand as hard as you like, if you're scared. And I remember him like really squeezing my hand, but he was so good. He was awesome. And he was only like 10 or 11 at the time, he was amazing. He did such a great job.
Yeah, I saw the footage of him like doing the flips in the harness, and I saw him doing the soccer ball stunt where he has to like do it into his own face, which was very funny.
Yeah. No, he did.
I think I can't remember if it was Runa or Brandon I was talking to about this, but we were speculating about season 2, season 3, and I made a comment like, you got this guy Kal-El, and he's so young, he's probably going to look so much old. He already looks so much older when you see him in interviews today. And I'm like, that, that's going to be really interesting for shooting, I would think. And the other person, I can't remember who it was like, well, nothing, anything can happen in a time portal. Like maybe Kevin gets stuck somewhere for a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe he goes forward in time. You never know what happens with time.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a great point.
It's always really interesting as well, shooting with kids, especially, but basically anyone who's still growing, because he's sort of in that costume for most of the time. And so when the costume people bought those costumes, they're buying, or like, the elements of it, say the pants, they're buying those pants, but also, another 2 sizes too big, because he's going to grow. And so all of a sudden, if like more and more of his legs start showing, you're like, what's going on? So that was because I'd worked with kids a little bit, but never for this amount of time. And it was really interesting, just all the little things. You know, when you've stopped growing, you don't really think about that. The only if you're like growing out of your costume, you're like, that's probably not so good. That's probably more to do with what I am doing.
Yeah, and he's the perfect age for that to be an issue too, because he's like, at that growing stage where he could grow a foot like in 3 weeks or
Yeah.
something. Let's see, what do we have next here? Swinging off the vine, they're commandeered at this point before they can actually make that jump. So we have to go back up to the temple for the sacrifice, or the quote unquote sacrifice, you guys. So we learned that a sacrifice is a big misunderstanding. They ask, why would the gods make us do like some crazy stuff, like you were saying, which is a great point. I think it says a lot for religion in general. And they make a big point about Wikipedia and Kevin being wrong, and how history is written by the victors of history. So I think this was like a really good tie-in lesson at the very end here, of like not quite what we expected at the end, and I liked it. Any notes
Yeah.
from the peanut gallery?
I really liked how the leader just said, "Yeah, don't listen to the words of the invaders. You're stupid."
I mean, I mean, it's a great point. And I think Kevin learns a lesson here himself. He learns a little bit of, what he knows as history could maybe not be correct. So
Mm.
maybe
I
he'll have.
also
Mhm.
I also liked how she said, don't listen to what the invaders say, because I have also said that about other people. Like,
Yeah.
I make up lies so like my people will fight those people. And the main dude, the guard number 1, was saying, "Wait, what?" And she goes, "Oh, never. Forget what I said. Forget what I said."
Yeah.
Both of them just killed this role. Even like the little kid who was going to be the
Uh-huh.
king, the 11-year-old. All three of them were fabulous in this episode. I couldn't believe it. Back to the cliff, though. Cassandra predicted this last episode, that they would be jumping off of a cliff. Except Cassandra said somebody would be breaking a bone, and I don't see that yet. So maybe that's yet to come. I do have another prediction. Again, like I said, I'm a real nerd about this show, and I haven't seen ahead, but they keep talking about Susan. And they say in this episode that Susan died jumping off of a cliff. And James had the theory last week, which I agreed with, that they're saying all this because Susan is like quote unquote dead to us. James's theory was that Susan used to work with them up in
Mm.
the quasi heaven, and that she didn't come with them to be a time bandit. So now Susan is dead to them. Not actually dead, just not their friend anymore. I have a new theory, James, based on time travel and based on what we've learned about time travel. I think that Susan is Saffron, because we know Saffron is going to come into the play at some point. Because we saw her at the house with Fiona at the end of this episode. Nothing's happened yet. I just have this strong feeling that when they run into Saffron, they're going to, because they keep getting Kevin's name wrong. They keep calling him these weird names that aren't Kevin. I'm thinking they got Saffron's name wrong and they call her Susan instead.
Yeah. And jumped off a cliff. Hey, went to hell.
Ah, you went to the different place. That's the first like almost cuss word we've even said. We've been great with cuss
Yeah.
words, guys. Congratulate yourselves. And that's not even a bad one.
Yeah, because this is capital hell,
Yeah.
a capital H, I mean. Yeah, well, H does mean hell, so it is like hell, ELL. That's how you spell it.
Yeah. We're in the clear here. I mean, we're totally in the clear. But yeah, they jump into that portal. It's a portal way down low. And they jump back into not Bingley. Yeah, it is Bingley, 2024. Widget's right this time. They're right back at Kevin's house, only a few minutes prior. This is where the episode really gets cooking for me. I really love everything I loved everything before, but when this started happening, I was at the edge of my seat, let's say. His parents are looking at their phones, watching TV, making comments about it. And I like their dialogue here, because I almost think that it's being very meta when they're saying like, Kevin's dad is talking about leaving a review for this movie that he's never seen. And talking about how the episode, the the story drops off after episode 2, and the so and so dies in episode 3, which we're going to see episode 3 pretty soon, James. We'll see if that's true. If somebody dies episode 3, that's what his mom said.
Who do you hope it's gonna be?
Not one of the bandits. Well, we know who dies in this episode too.
Oh
So
yeah.
that would only lead me to believe that if it's not one of the bandits, then it would be either Fiona or Saffron.
Or it could just be a random person.
Mayan guard number 12.
But wait, who's like a big figure in history who dies? Like
Um,
we know that they like maybe they go see Hamilton, not the show, that like they see Hamilton and oh wow, Hamilton died. I didn't know that was gonna happen.
yeah, they are pretty good with the deaths. I did notice like this most of these shows are rated G and it's like for 9 and above, but when you look at the warnings, it says like threat of peril is one of the
Oh yeah.
warnings that it gives.
No,
So
yeah, I see that a lot, especially on like children's shows. Like, yeah, like a kid could get scared, but this is as G rated as Step by Step was G rated because man, oh man, that there was a lot of sexual stuff in that show, and it's crazy that it was on primetime television.
are you familiar with Step by Step by any chance, Greta? It's an American television show from I guess the 90s.
No, but I was thinking like the equivalent, well, equivalent or not, as like Shrek, where you can watch it again as an adult and
Mm-hmm.
it's hilarious and there's so much that you went completely over your head as a child. And I think that's what's really clever, to be able to make a family show where the whole family can fully sit down and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's definitely this one here. I think Step by Step is probably way naughtier than Shrek. Is that correct,
Oh,
James?
yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Much naughtier. Back in Kevin's room, the gang hides from the Supreme Being successfully, which is nice. They go to say goodbye to Kevin. Seems like he was a real part of the team. He felt like that. They return all the stuff that they stole from him,
That was
which
real
was
good.
a really cute moment. And this is where we get the vibe. We have to go by the bandits, interpretation. They all do not like Kevin's parents, and they're sensing real bad vibes from Kevin's parents, especially like, was it Alto and Widget are really like almost weeping for the poor guy. But luckily they die. Don't worry. Fiona shows up and coals them. I did not expect this to happen. This harkens back to the movie where Kevin's parents both get cold at the end of the movie. James, were you ecstatic to see this, or what were your thoughts when this happened?
Oh, I loved it, but I think because it's happening so early, they're going to get uncold.
That's kind of the clue that like Penelope gives us, that they can turn back time.
Uh-huh.
Especially because they're being really loose and easy with those portals. Taika, or like his creator, the Supreme Being, is telling us like half-assedly, like while he's doing a bunch of other things, he lets us know that like those open portal doors can like cause problems with time continuity and cause, time problems. So I think
Mhm.
that's definitely going to be happening here, thanks to the bandits.
I get cold a few times a week. It's when Nicole pranks me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a couple days ago, she gut punched me and she said, "You got cold." It's a good prank.
It is. I never get cold. I'm always hot. So yeah, Fiona gets in there. She does away with Kevin's parents, and it's time to go. Penelope, they're gonna leave Kevin behind, but Penelope has a last second change of heart, grabs Kevin, and so he's off with them now. And she also makes the offhand remark that, maybe we can save his parents. So we kind of have that hope in the back of our hearts. Saffron, though, she's completely unaware of any of this. She's got like her kitty cat headphones on. She has no idea what's happening next door. And the last we see of them, Fiona is in Kevin's room. Saffron's in her room, jamming to the radio. And that's where we leave it with them. Very interesting to see what happens there. I hope that Fiona just kind of skedaddles away and leaves Saffron alone, but we'll see.
Now gonna scoop them up.
Be part of the gang. I know she joins the gang because I've seen her picture hanging out with Kevin and Biddleg and all the guys. So I know she does it, but I don't know how that happens. Greta does. I can see that smile down there. And she can't tell us.
Well, you've also seen like the first 4 episodes, Steve, right?
I have, but I don't have these answers though.
I think he does, listeners. He's keeping it safe for me.
I have seen what Saffron does, and she's not with the gang, James.
Okay, all right.
We're still hanging out there. We're going to head to heaven now. We're going to actually meet the Supreme Being for the first time. All we've seen in his head so far. Takes it off, and he's Mr. Handsome Taika. He's got all his angels, I guess. Do y'all consider them angels that are hanging out there, Greta?
I don't know, but I just love how it's more like a work uniform. There's sort of I think that's maybe why I went to say the compound. Like it's not angelic. It's not, like their uniforms are, it's like we're in the sky, but other than that, it's not. I mean, bar the cherub, which is great. Uh
Yeah, the cherub got to be on a wire. There's a lot of wire work in this show. And then they put Dane Noonan on a wire too, so he can serve that spice, that the pee juice is what it turns out to be, which is, kids will love that kind of stuff. But we learned that, Supreme Being likes the platypus, so he approves of that.
I love those moments.
Oh, were you signaling to me, James? No signal. Okay, good. I thought I saw your hand moving around. And we see Damon in the background. He's a very inconspicuous spy back there. We see him like listening in on the Supreme Being's conversation, so he can go back and report to what do we call him? The darkness, the bad guy, Jermaine. What's
Yeah,
his official title again? Do y'all remember?
it's something evil, like
We
uh,
said it earlier. You said it earlier, and then I agreed with you, and now we both forgot.
oh, you're
The
wrong.
listeners know.
That's the
The
one.
wrongness. That's
Yeah.
right. The wrongness. So Damon's going to go report back to the wrongness. Um, we did briefly see the wrongness this episode too.
Mm-hmm.
And we meet a new character. It's 2 guys, and one of them is called Head Face, and one of them is called Stomach Face. And I like the way they like combine those 2 characters into like one weird dude. And of course, we've got Fiona, Damon, Demon. I can't remember what the guy with the crazy nose name is, but he carries around the cape for the wrongness. I'm just loving this whole crew and the way that they communicate and the way that their vibe is kind of similar to the Time Bandits vibe in a
Mm-hmm.
way. But sure, we know that the Supreme Being, we keep wanting to call him Taika, but the Supreme Being has this top secret plan that he's about to reveal. I can't tell what it is. It looks like the world. It looks like a map of some sort, but it's super duper top secret and we can't talk about it. That's all we know. We cut to black. And this is where we get to ask ourselves, Greta, James asked this last time, and we're going to do it again. We went through 3 time periods. We went through 50,000 BC, we went to the Mayan classical period, and we went to Bingley 2024. So out of those 3 time periods, is there one of those that you would prefer to visit than the others?
I think the Mayan period would be pretty amazing.
It
Yeah.
would be. You'd be scared though, right?
I would think I'd be terrified, but I'd love to. I'd love to see the temples, and I mean, I think our costume department did such an incredible job with the headdresses and
Absolutely.
all of the elements. But to get to see that in real life would be, yeah, pretty
Right
amazing.
on. How about you, James? Where are you going?
Bingley, baby, 2024.
Me too. Why are you going to Bingley 2024, James?
Well, that means I just like get to teleport there. I don't have to get on a plane or anything. That's cool. Also, Nicole's constantly saying we got to get out of this country.
And there's your chance.
And as stipulated, like we now know, my decision is always I'm trapped there with Nicole. So like that's just a win-win.
Right. Yeah, would you be traveling with somebody, Greta? Would you grab somebody's hand and pull them through the portal with you, or would you rather go solo?
I feel like Brandon would be a good one to take as your bodyguard. Like
Yeah, that's
he's got
absolutely
an
right.
extensive background bodyguard, like being a bodyguard. He's been in the army. I remember when we were doing some high falls, and that was when you're just like, you're at like the top of the studio roof, and you were just jumping off, no harnesses, into boxes. And Brandon said to me, "Were you nervous?" And I said, "Yeah, I was nervous. Like I knew I had to step off on action because maybe I wouldn't go." And I said to him, "Were you nervous?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Surely you were a little bit nervous." And he said, "I've been trained to jump out of planes into enemy territory." And I was like, I forget that we have lived such different lives. So I
Yeah,
think
he does.
Brandon is protection.
You want
That's
to
a
know what?
great answer.
I
James?
changed mine. I'm not going with Nicole. I might need a bodyguard in Bingley, guys.
Take
We're all taking Brandon with us. Yes. And I know him now too. So I can vouch for you, James. Greta's no problem. I can maybe get in there, and James, I'll vouch for you. We all got Brandon on our side.
All
Thank you,
right.
Brandon. And why wouldn't we? Right, Greta? Why wouldn't you?
Why
What
would
is that? Is that one of Brandon's saying, or is that one of your sayings?
No, there are so many Brandon isms. There was another great one, which, like, I remember he started saying, and I was just so confused. But he'd go, "Who's your father?" And you'd go, "What?" And by the end of it, we're all like, "You, Brandon." Would be like up in the room together, and he'd be like, and you just go, "And who's your father?" It means it can mean anything. It's like a universal term. You can put it anywhere, and it'll mean it. And yeah. He says so much random stuff, but I wish I'd written some of them down because I would make a small, like, coffee table book of random quotes from the show.
I mean, my answer would be Joseph Barnes. That's my father. I mean, why you keep asking me, Brandon? It's Joseph. I keep
I know.
telling you.
I know.
But yeah, was there a reason for the why wouldn't you? Is that just like an encouragement method, or is that more like to make fun of you, or
I
what
think
was
it's
his intention there?
everything. It's another one of those. It can be used in any time. He could do something really random, and you'd go, "Why'd you do that?" And you'd go, "Well, why wouldn't you?" And you go, "Okay." But then other time, yeah, he'll use it for anything. It's like
It's
salt.
way
Put it on
it's
anything.
way better than sometimes give up, which is what Kevin's parents say is give up. I think Brandon's is much more inspirational.
Brandon could be a really unique, inspirational speaker.
Yeah, he told me he would come back on the podcast and recap with us, James. So maybe we'll get him to do that. Why wouldn't you, Brandon? So, yeah, we're at the end of our episode. I had a lot of fun with this, Greta. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for joining us and being a time bandit.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was very
I
fun.
mean,
Time Bandit.
I'm shocked that you came, and I'm shocked that you're here. So I'm just beside myself with joy. We'll be talking to Sarah Darkin pretty soon, and I think in about 2 or 3 weeks she's going to come on the show and join us as well. But next week we're going to be on to episode 3. We're going to be having religious professor Anthony Ladon will be joining us.
Oh,
He's one of my pals over there at the House of the Dragon. So I think next episode, Medieval, will be very appropriate for Anthony to join us for our talk. Um, yeah, Greta, do you have any final words before we sign off here?
well, thank you so much for having me. But also just about the show. I mean, it's so much fun to watch, but I would love your listeners and you guys to know that it was even more fun to be there. It was like we shot for maybe just under 7 months, and
Mhm.
all of it, I laughed so hard. At some point, I think I had a 6-pack from laughing so hard. Like it was, and it wasn't through exercise. It was through the joy of being there.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a really, really special show, really amazing people to shoot with, and yeah.
Well, everybody's already watching Time Bandits. No worries there. But we want people to always check out Netflix's Territory, which will be coming out in October of 2024. And Greta will be playing a character called Nikki on that. And when is the short film Johnny? What is it? You have a short film that's going to be coming out, and it hasn't come out quite yet.
Yeah, Little Johnny. I've got no idea when that's gonna come out, to tell you honestly. It's a horror short film. Um I have no idea when that's coming out, but yes, Territory is coming out. I think it's 24th of October. Yeah,
Great. Okay. Right around my son's birthday. He'll be excited about that. A nice birthday gift for him.
amazing. Yeah, well, I mean, if you like shows like Yellowstone and that kind of thing, it's sort of like an Australian Yellowstone. It's very cool.
It's the largest production that has taken place from Netflix in that hemisphere, is what I read. So they're putting a lot of stuff behind it. We're going to be hearing about it. All right, James, how about yourself? What do you have before we sign off here? I know you got plenty of plugs for us. What's the most current?
Just real quick, listen to my music under Marsh Land Monster. That's 3 words. Head over to mlmpod.com to find out information about my podcast. And like I said before, go over to patreon.com/MLMpod, where for $5 a month, you get exclusive content every single Friday. And if you're in Chicago, head over to Chicago Comics. On the weekends, I work there. It's buy a comic book, buy buy pornography. We can say that. We sell that there, okay?
Kids, don't buy it. Take your parents there, and their parents can buy that.
Yeah.
And you kids can buy some X-Men comics. It sounds great.
Or, some Batman, maybe a Sonic the Hedgehog.
Stick with X-Men. That was always my favorite.
No, go with Sonic the Hedgehog, guys.
So with me, you want to go with Intravoid. That's my band. We have the newest single we have out is called Thus the World is Created, with myself and Lindsay Dunn. And I'm still working on, I'm sorry, Lindsay Dunn. I'm still working on our 4th song, which will be called Paradise. And it'll be out as soon as I finish mixing it, anytime now. But for now, please check out Thus the World was Created. Check out Lindsay's stuff over there at oneofmystories.com. And keep checking out Time Bandits, checking out this podcast. James, we're number 67 in New Zealand this week. We've cracked the code in New Zealand, buddy, because we got New Zealand guests. I think that's why. So thank you for listening to Sweet Child of Time. And thanks to James and Greta. I hope they and the listeners always find water and shade and shoes. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Say bye, Greta.
Bye.
There you go.
Yeah.